Hey guys, Matthew, and welcome to the first episode of my third Zero Hero. In this case, we are going to be lab running. So I just want to give you guys an update of where we're sitting at, essentially what we did to get the currency to gear up the character, and then also tell you guys about the build, and then of course our results so far and all that good stuff. But realistically, first day I got to like level 70 something, and it was like horrible. It was absolutely awful. I was playing a Shield Crush build, but it was like kind of a hybrid where I was trying to make sure I didn't spend too many regrets to respec into the Lab Runner build. It was not fun at all. I farmed about 1x or so in the very simple strategy of going up to Valdo's Rest. So Valdo's Rest has these two nodes, Ominous Arrival and Diplomatic Escort. So what I did is I left some Watchstones. You could even do one Watchstone. It would be enough. One Watchstone in each of the regions, and then none in Valdo's Rest. With these two nodes, it means that you can just go in the map, kill the Harbinger. Hopefully it's a powerful Harbinger boss. One in every 3 maps, it's going to be one of those. And then you're going to drop some currency shards from them. What you're looking for is Ancient Shards and Exiled Shards. They add up very quickly. On most of the time when you kill a powerful Harbinger boss, you'll probably drop on average 1 or 2 Exalted Shards, which is about 7 Chaos each. And then some Ancient Shards are worth about 1 C each as well, and those drop quite a few. Even the non-powerful Harbinger always drop like 1 or 2 of these. So it's not like crazy. It's not going to make you super rich, but it does add up fairly quickly. So yeah, I found about 150 C doing that yesterday. Then today, what I decided to do was the character was just too painful. It was so bad that I feel like streaming because I just didn't want to play it. So I said, you know what? I'm just gonna bite the bullet. I'm just going to go and pay myself some 5-way for some leveling. We're just going to take the currency from wherever. It doesn't really matter. I'm not going to cheat any of the gearing. So what I did is I farmed these maps in Valdo's Rest for another few hours. So I made about another Exalt or so here. I have a couple Exalt shards left and about 1 Ancient Orb left to sell. As well as another half there. So that's another maybe X and a little bit, maybe X and 50C or so left from what I made in yesterday and today in terms of farming, and then I geared up the character. Now the character I spent about 1.5x on, which means that in total I've made about 3x so far, and none of it has been through lab running. I'm not ready to lab run yet. The only reason I did this lab run here is because I want to share basically some of the tools that we're using, or that I'm going to be using for this series in the introduction video, if you will. So yeah, I've made about 3x so far, spent about 1.5 on the build. It's not even complete. I still need to roll my flasks. I'm running a 5-link. Now, I got a pretty good deal on this axe, however. It is a 720 PDPS axe with the chance to deal double damage. I bought this for 1x. I don't know who was crazy enough to sell that for 1x, but it was already 5-linked as well. So I was like, holy, this is exactly what I've been looking for. Awesome. So I picked that up. Now, once we have a little bit more currency, we're going to 6-link it. Now, I want to talk real quickly about the build. It is a Leaf Slam build, which is definitely something that you need to get used to a little bit. Because obviously it's not as easy to play as a walking build like a Wave of Conviction Trapper. For those who know what that is, the typical Lab Runner build. It's a little bit more clunky because you're going to leaf slam into other things. You're going to leaf slam into walls. You're going to get stuck. It's definitely not as fast, but the upside is that you can spend a very minimum amount of currency on this build. As I said, 1.5x for the entirety of my build so far. I'll talk about that in a second. And it's capable of doing Uber Lab, as you can see here, just fine. You're basically immortal in Uber Lab. And if I had a 6-link, I could even do Gift of the Goddess. Now, I wouldn't be immortal in the Gift of the Goddess, but fortunately for us, there are some guides to help us do that. So let's talk about that real quick. Now, the build is not my build, which is why I'm not making a build guide or anything like that. It is Mr. Khan's build, which is an authority figure in the lab running scene. He's been there for a couple leagues now, or a few leagues now. And he's basically the lab running guy. So I'm going to link his channel, his YouTube. He's definitely new to the YouTube scene. He's more of a streamer, but drop a sub, check out his stream as well. He's a really cool dude. And yeah, really appreciate his content. But yeah, he's the one who hooked me up with the POB. He's like, yep, this should work. Should cost you no more than 50C, maybe an X, depending how good you want the rares to be and all that. For me, I got an X and a half spent so far, but it's very far from being good gear. Like, the majority of it was 1 to 2C items. 1x went into my weapon out of the 1.5x for the entire build. So you can tell it was some pretty cheap stuff. But it works just fine, which is good to know. So yeah, you can check out the actual build guide. He has a complete build guide and also like a playstyle guide of where to sit in order to do his arrow easily and stuff like that. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is PoE Lab as well as PoE Lab Compass. So PoE Lab is this website here. It's going to be linked in the description as well, where you can basically see the layout of the lab on a daily basis. Whenever it gets reset, it takes about 30 minutes or so, and then it gets updated. Which is really, really cool. And then the nice thing about that is you can see what's on there. So for example, you can see the gauntlets, the puzzles, the dark shrines. So this is really cool. Also, you can see the shortcuts as well. So you can see if the lab is going to be a good or a bad lab. Today, for example, we have a 9-room lab with a secret passage in room 11, which is, overall a pretty solid lab. It's not the greatest. It has a golden door. And it's one of the bad set of traps, but overall it's a pretty easy lab, especially for a build like this, because like I said, we're pretty much immortal, right? We have a full uptime on 6 endurance charges, as well as some regen from the Warcry mastery and using Enduring Cry, which is also giving us more regen, on top of the fact that, of course, we have some block and a bunch of armor, bunch of evasion as well, our flasks. It's a fairly tanky character. Like I said, pretty much immortal in the regular lab. Okay, so alongside this comes Lab Compass. So what Lab Compass allows you to do is to download this exact file here, what you're seeing, and then you can basically import it right there by clicking Import Maps and putting it in there. And what it does is it loads the layout, and it's going to give you a bit of an overlay, which is just a simple compass, which tells you the direction to go in order to go to the next room. The way that it works is it will tell you the fastest way to run the lab. So it doesn't care for dark shrines, it doesn't care for side rooms. Now you can tell it to care for side rooms by clicking on them. It's going to give a little star on the room, and this is going to basically be added to the actual layout if you are somebody who cares about things like dark shrines or puzzles and all that good stuff. So it's a really, really useful tool. As you can see, I'm not running it right now because I forgot to open it, and the way that it works is you need to open it before you enter the lab. Like, you could open it at the plaza and it'll be fine, but if you open it after you enter the lab, it won't work. The way that it works is it reads your client file, and as you can see, whenever you enter a room in lab, it'll say, for example, you've entered whatever, like Sepulchre Passage. When it does that, essentially the tool reads that, and that's how it's able to know where you are. So this is not like a terms of service breaking tool. There's nothing interacting with the memory of the game or anything like that. It is purely off of the client file. So this, nobody's ever been banned for this. Has been around since the dawn of times. Now, one thing that hasn't been around since the dawn of times is Labbie, and this is why I'm sitting in front of the Divine Font. This is really what I want to talk about in this video, the new really cool tool. Now, I don't know if it's been around for about a league or so, but it is basically groundbreaking what it does for you. So typically when it comes to lab running, what you would have to do is to basically know what bases are good. So for example, which unique bases, which rare bases, item levels, all that good stuff. And you would also have to know which enchants are good, right? And then you would have to know basically what to enchant on which bases. And you could either have a spreadsheet or some notes or just remember all of it. But nowadays, none of that is necessary any longer with the help of Labbie. So what I'm going to do here, first off, we're going to go under settings, and we have to basically tell Labbie where the Divine Font is. So this is going to change based on your resolution. So I'm going to go ahead and press what does it say? Select, and then I'll put this little rectangle thingy right, and I'll put it around where the enchants are, pretty much like this, and then I'll press set and save. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Labbie and I'll do search. What it's going to do here, whenever I press screen capture, is that it is basically Labbie, the tool, is going to look at these different enchants and tell me, essentially, right now in the league, how many of them are listed, and today, like daily, how many of them were listed in the last, like, 24 hours, I would imagine. I'm not sure how it works exactly. So it can tell me, essentially, which one of these enchants are good, and then whenever, or good, or at least meta, and then, not only that, it'll tell me which one of the bases people actually care for this enchant, and then I can even automatically price check it, which is fantastic. So let's go ahead and run the screen capture, and then it's going to look at these different enchant: Orb Storm damage, Sniper's Mark, and Puncher's duration. As you can see, it only gave me 2. So if it only gave me 2, that means that there's probably no puncture duration in his in the Labbie's database of enchant, which means it's definitely worthless, I would imagine. Now, it looks like there's none that were given to me for Orb Storms either, but it does show up, which means maybe at some point people cared about it, but right now there's none of them available in the database, which means, quite frankly, it's probably bad. However, here we have Sniper's Mark has increased curse effect, and as you can see, there's 178 of them, and daily, 70 of them were listed, and as you can see, the vast majority of them were put on an Asenath's chance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to price check it. How much is that worth? Now, we know that this is the best one, right? Now, the next question is, well, it's the best one, but is it worth anything? So we can go ahead and press the price check button, and it will open up a page for us, which is basically going to price check it. And as you can see, this enchant on an Asenath's chant is worth 2x? 2x, 2.8x. Now, we could look into the any to see if there's any other ones. But yeah, see, this is about a 1.5 to 2x enchant. Now, that's a shame because that's literally all my money and then some. I don't even have 2x, and I also don't have an Asenath's chant to enchant. Because, well, let's talk about the results of this series so far. Now that I'm done talking about Labbie, all of the links that I've spoken about, be it Labbie, be it the PoE Lab, and of course the Lab Compass, and the build guide are all going to be in the description. But now let's talk about the 0 to hero. So I've already spoken about how I went about making the currency to get the build started and, you know, the little bit of money that we have left over. Now let's talk about essentially what I'm going to have to do going forward, because I don't have enough money to afford all these good bases. So my plan is probably going to be to farm about 4 to 5x. So an extra, maybe 2 or so Exalt. I'm going to go back to doing the exact same thing I was doing in Valdos. Just put in a T1 estuary map or whatever I have available in the Valdos Rest as a white tier map. I go in there, I kill the Harbinger, I portal out, I come back, I do it again. And then I'm slowly but surely building up stacks of Exalted Shards and Ancient Shards in order to get Ancient Orbs and Exalted Orbs. And then I sell those for some Chaos. The goal is that I'm going to be able to buy all of the good, or at least the default okay-ish, basically bases that I'm then going to enchant afterwards, and that's kind of where we're going to start making money. So in the second episode, which is going to be tomorrow, we are probably going to have started the lab running, because I'm going to farm all the currency required to buy all these bases tonight in the next few hours. I mean, this is about a 1.5-ish Exalt an hour strategy, maybe 1x an hour. Now, the cool thing about this strategy is that sure, Escher is a pretty bad map, and Strand is like not a great map either, but this, whenever you do Escher, you're going to drop some Strands, and when you do the Strand, you can drop some towers, especially because I've triple towered favorited. And so what that means is I end up taking all these T3 towers that I drop and I sell them on TFT. And if you have like a few of them, maybe 10 or 15 of them, they sell pretty much instantly for a few chaos each. So that's also a way to increase the currency per hour that I'm making with this strategy, because it's not like I'm going to get rich off of doing this. I just have to get enough currency to buy the required bases to then go into, you know, the actual farming of the labyrinth. Now, fortunately, the actual offerings are dirt cheap, right? They don't cost anything. They're not even a chaos each, so they're very, very cheap. You can get about 4 of them for a chaos, so super cheap. And the twice enchanted prophecies are only like 4 chaos a pop as well, so they're super, super cheap. So because of that, there's quite a bit of money to be made in labbing. Now, we are in the later portion of the league, which means some of these enchants are probably going to take a little bit longer to sell. And what I decided to do is that I'm not going to do any services for this, this 0 to hero, right? This challenge. So it would be a lot easier if I went over to TFT and I advertised for some sort of service, some lab running service, but I'm not going to do that either. Not because I don't think it's fair. Anybody can do that. Anyone can make a Discord and head over to the TFT, build up, you know, some trust via running services for people, and then, you know, doing lab running services. Anyone can do that, but because I want to make this as relatable as possible, I don't want to use my, you know, content creator status to get more services than anybody else would, and therefore I decided that I was going to do the entire thing basically without the, you know, community help, if you will. So that might make it take a little bit longer, but we'll see. I mean, I just got an enchant that could have sold for 2x. Now, I'm not sure if that was Asenath's, the upgraded or the faded or the non-faded version. If it was the faded version, that's a lot less profit. But even then, that's still quite good. The enchant right there, the Sniper's Mark enchant,
can't do this
even if it was for the updated version, means that it's worth about an exalt profit, which is, you know, pretty good. So anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the first episode. I know there's a lot of things I needed to speak about in this one, but again, all the links are going to be in the description. Before I go, though, as always, I do want to say a huge thank you to my supporters. So like him, Hamad, Max, Georgie, Rescoral, Stan, Brandon, welcome back, Thomas, Nate, the Great Master, Alex, the other Alex, Tim, Mercury, Johnny, Scott, Nailed, Kevin, Killer Kev, Dubstep, Alex, Citizen, and Sinjeric. Hopefully, guys, all enjoyed the video. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Peace.